Hello and welcome viewers. I'm Pia and you're watching the Africa Brief on NewsX World. Let's take a look at the headlines this hour. Senegal's Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko has condemned the coup in Guinea-Bissau, calling it a sham and urging the immediate resumption of disrupted elections. His remarks intensify regional outrage over the power grab in Guinea-Bissau. Congolese and Rwandan presidents will visit Washington next week to sign a U.S. brokered peace deal and meet U.S. President Donald Trump. The move aims to stabilize eastern Congo and advance regional security. Sudan's rapid support forces are pushing to capture Kordofan, targeting towns like Babnoussa and El Obeid. The RSF has gained momentum after defeating the Sudanese armed forces in El Fasher, killing at least 1,500 and displacing thousands. Kenya's Deputy President Kithure Kindiki has urged national unity after by-elections. He's promised government support for inclusive development amid violence reported in several regions. Duduzile Zuma-Sambudla, daughter of former South African President Jacob Zuma, has resigned from parliament amid allegations that she lured 17 South African men to fight for Russia in the Ukraine war. According to reports, Ukrainian negotiators will travel to the United States this weekend for talks on Washington's plan to end the war in Ukraine. The delegation plans to meet U.S. officials, possibly in Florida. Ukrainian Foreign Minister states that Russia launched dozens of missiles and over 500 drones in an overnight attack that killed 2 people, while air defense units engaged to protect the capital city of Kiev. The death toll from the building fire in Hong Kong has risen to 162 and around 200 people are still missing. Authorities have arrested 11 people over possible corruption and unsafe renovations in Wangford Port. Well, viewers, those are the headlines and our top focus. Senegal's Prime Minister Ousmane Sonko has now condemned this week's coup in Guinea-Bissau, calling it a sham and demanding the continuation of disrupted elections. His comments add to growing regional anger over the power grab in the country, which is a major cocaine trafficking hub. The military junta, which ousted civilian leadership before election results were announced, has named Major General Horta Inta as a transitional president. Horta claims the coup was necessary to thwart alleged plots by narco-traffickers. Meanwhile, the African Union and West African bloc ECOWAS have condemned the unconstitutional move, with the AU now suspending Guinea-Bissau's membership until and unless order is restored. With us on the broadcast is Ayanuga Olugbenga Paul, Public Affairs Analyst, joining us from Lagos in Nigeria. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. We have seen the elections in Guinea-Bissau. They were rather tumultuous, but right before the results could even be announced, the coup took place. We have seen a lot of reactions. Senegal's reaction is the latest, condemning the coup that has taken place. The African Union too has taken very stringent steps. As far as the democracy in Guinea-Bissau is concerned, to what extent is this a dent on that? How long can we see the effects of this coup lasting? Is there any sort of recourse back to the civilian leadership that could take place?
Well, the Guinea-Bissau government has always been a roving door, between the military and the civilian from time to time. And the recent coup was even alleged to have been masterminded by the incumbent president, who the world thinks is the one being thrown out of government, because according to sources on the ground, is that the incumbent president seems to be on the losing side with the results counted thus far. And the person who is likely to win is a newcomer who maybe the security hierarchy are afraid that when he comes in, he may want to probe the previous government, and many of them will be probed alongside, and that is why they had to quickly intervene and take over government before he comes in. That is the story on the ground. And that story is not too hard to believe if you observe the fact that the person who has been announced as the interim prime minister by the military junta and finance minister was the head of the campaign for the incumbent president in the re-election process. So if the head of the campaign is announced as the new prime minister and finance minister, and a lot of top and close allies of the incumbent president are already working with the military junta to, stabilize the government, then if we use our tongue to counter it, we may say that those allegations are not far from the truth. But I want ECOWAS to be careful. This quick announcement of removing people from ECOWAS because of internal crisis in their country, they should be careful the way it's announced, because this was the same thing that happened in Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger, and those people just removed themselves from ECOWAS, weakening the regional power and efforts of ECOWAS in those countries. So if Guinea-Bissau decides to go the Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger way and joins them, it will be 4 countries removed from the ECOWAS. So how many are they going to remove before no one else is left in the ECOWAS? Rather than, announcing sanctions such as removal, they should look for a way to negotiate peaceful return to democratic government rather than threatening sovereign nations on how their internal affairs is done. Nobody wants military takeover anymore anywhere. Military government is out of fashion. But at the same time, each country knows where the shoe pinches, and they know what kind of balm to apply where the shoe pinches. So external forces can only appeal to them in the country and see how they can return peacefully to democratic process. And this military junta promising that they will do 1 year of transition, I don't think they will do 1 year, except another, take them off office, because it has been a recurrent pattern where a military will take over and they will say, oh, we are stabilizing things, within 1 year we will be off. But 6 to 8 months down the line, they will announce again a shift of the day of handover and continuous announcement of shift of the day of handover till they spend 20 years in government, if they were not checkmated by maybe another uprising somewhere else. But we should watch carefully and, find a way to protect the opposition leader.
Absolutely.
Who,
I was just coming to that, as you've pointed out, things do seem quite fishy in this particular instance. There are several analysts who've in fact branded the coup as fake, owing to the fact that the Major General was definitely a very key player in the incumbent president's affairs. So I wanted to understand from you, what does it mean for the opposition, which has seen a lot of public backing in recent times?
So I think it means that the opposition should, one, think strategically. First and foremost, you can't stay in the country and be grandstanding and be saying, oh, I will fight the fight from within the country. They killed Abiola in Nigeria back in 1998, and the heaven did not fall. Many many opposition leaders in many countries have been killed in like manner. I think the first thing is to take exile to a friendly country and continue the fight from there, so that, because the opposition leader is the rallying figure around the movement, and these people believe that once you cut the snake head, the rest of the body will be flailing everywhere without direction. So if he is being seen as the snake head, the head must be protected at all costs.
Indeed, sir. Requesting you to stay on with us. We're tracking some other very crucial developments as far as DR Congo and Rwanda are concerned. We're now learning that the presidents of the Democratic Republic of Congo and Rwanda are scheduled to travel to Washington next week to sign a peace deal and meet U.S. President Donald Trump. This latest move aims to strengthen peace in eastern Congo and also attract Western mining investments into the region. And as per reports, the meeting is expected to take place on the 4th of December. Talks can focus on building a U.S. brokered agreement that was reached earlier in June, and also on a separate regional economic integration framework that was signed earlier this month itself. The leaders of the DRC and Rwanda are expected to ratify these particular agreements. It's of course important to note that Congo's President Felix Tshisekedi has been consistent with his demands, stressing that Rwandan troop withdrawal remains very crucial for a true regional economic integration to come into effect. Remember, earlier in September, Congo and Rwanda did agree to implement security measures outlined in the June deal by the year end, including eliminating the Congo-based FDLR threat and facilitating Rwandan troop withdrawals, but so far only limited progress has been reached on the ground. Now, Rwanda has denied backing the M23 group, but UN experts have reported that Rwanda does exercise significant command over the group that operates in the Kivu region. Still with us on the broadcast is Mr. Ayanuga Olugbenga Paul, public affairs analyst from Lagos. Interesting aspects of this particular upcoming deal have come to light. Of course, peace is on the agenda. Donald Trump does want to, in fact, further strengthen his image as a peacemaker, deal maker. But reports are also coming in that Western mining investments will be taking place in the region. We do know that the conflict so far has been exacerbated by the fact that the Kivu region is mineral rich. What do you make of some of these key elements of the deal that has come forward? What does this mean for the region at large? Are things looking up? Could we see fresh investments coming in and the lives of people thereby improving?
Well, I've always maintained my stand that the U.S. will not do anything that does not bring significant benefit for it, even though we are happy from the angle of the humanitarian support that will come to the people who are currently caught in the middle of the fighting, but the details in the deal shows clearly that U.S. is out there for its own benefit. But let's not harp so much on that, but so much on finding middle ground. All these people who are parroting that Rwanda is sponsoring M23 rebel, I'm trying not to use strong terms or terms that should not be used on TV. But Rwanda will be foolish not to protect its own border. Don't forget that there are border towns between Rwanda and Congo where people intermarry, where they speak the same language, where people have cousins across the border, where people have family members across the border. And therefore, if Rwanda does not monitor carefully the activities in its neighbor's place, it might be affected. And having learned from the incident of the 1994 genocide, they will be
Yes.
foolish not to take every preemptive measure to protect their country from being, exploded upon by the activities going on in their neighbor's place. And that is why I feel I should give kudos to the American president and the peace brokers for making sure they bring the Rwandan president or leadership to the table to discuss with Tshisekedi of Congo, because once there is an agreement between the two of them, it will be easy to control the menace of the M23 rebel. And of course, if there is peace in the region and the mineral resources are mined legally, then there will be more revenue for both countries and more, because peace brings more business explosion and people can actually breathe a sigh of relief, from this unending, occupation by terrorist group or by rebel groups and by government groups on one side, because all the groups, both the rebel group and the government group, all of them commit, acts that are not in the standard operation of a war, in the process of trying to gain territories or recover lost territories. So both of them cannot say the other person is bad because they are both doing the same thing away from the eyes of the camera, away from the eyes of the world. So this piece is way overdue, and I think that uh, the press should also give them some space to be able to discuss freely and not, in the process of people trying to be the first to break the news, they begin to put out sensational news that may undermine the progress being made in the negotiation going on the table. So if we really are all in the interest of peace, we should give them space to be able to negotiate freely and come to a peaceful conclusion.
Absolutely. So with that, I'd like to thank you for taking our time, of course, not just sharing your insights, but also providing context to our viewers regarding the scale of this conflict, the fact that it's been so long drawn out, that this peace is now a ray of hope. But of course, the people have to tread carefully because the fragile peace should be maintained for the benefit. Meanwhile, viewers, we're shifting focus to do what's taking place in Sudan. We're now learning that Sudan's rapid support forces are pushing to capture Kordofan, targeting towns like Babnusa and El Obeid. The RSF gained momentum after defeating the Sudanese armed forces in El Fasher, killing at least 1,500 and displacing thousands. The SAF still holds Babnusa, but if it falls, the RSF could advance towards Al Obeid and ultimately Khartoum. Despite the Middle East Quad-mediated ceasefire efforts, fighting continues and both sides seek to consolidate power. Kordofan is strategically vital for agriculture, livestock, petroleum and trade, making it a critical prize for control of Sudan's economic backbone. With us on the broadcast is Ambassador Mahesh Sachdev, former Indian High Commissioner to Nigeria. He's joining us from New Delhi. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. Rapid developments taking place as far as Sudan is concerned. There were attempts by the Quad countries in the Middle East to bring about a ceasefire framework. The RSF then declared a unilateral ceasefire. Of course, none of that has really materialized because the RSF is pushing forward into Kordofan, trying to take over key cities, including Babnusa and Al Obeid. I mentioned that this place is strategically important for agriculture, livestock, petroleum and trade. It's also the route to Khartoum. How do you see what's transpiring on the ground playing out? Is the RSF likely to make significant gains here as well? And then what does it mean for the fate of the Sudanese armed forces?
Thank you for having me. Sudan's problems are complex, proportionate to the third largest country in the African continent with over 50 million population. It's been at war for over 2.5 years. And I think the fighting is entering a decisive phase whereby it could either escalate and one of the two sides prevails, or it can the country can head towards a de facto partition with both RSF and SAF claiming to represent entire Sudan, but actually controlling certain parts of it. As it appears, the summer rain season is over, during which fighting is sparse, and this season has been utilized by both sides to accumulate weapons. Now that the dry season is setting in, the fighting is likely to escalate. Now, the focus last month was El Fasher, but since then, RSF has been emboldened by its final victory over Al-Fashir, the North Darfur region's capital. And now it is trying to do the same thing to strategic areas of Kordofan so that the southern province, which you mentioned, is rich in minerals and agricultural land, also falls to it. Uh, Babu Nusa is where the fighting is taking place. And then there is Al Obeid. If Baba Nusa falls to RSF, it will intensify attacks on Al Obeid and thereby open the possible return to Khartoum, where it was evicted earlier this year by SAF. Now, here one should add that this ethnic situation in Kordofan differs from Darfur. Darfur, it was Arabs versus non-Arabs. Kordofan is a different milieu. It has multiple ethnic groups, and the role of these ethnic groups allied with SAF and RSF becomes more important. Some ethnic groups have been split vertically, with a particular part helping SAF, while the other part is allied to RSF. So the kind of massacres that we saw in Darfur of African origin citizens is unlikely to take place, even if the decisive victory comes in Kordofan area. I think the RSF is being disingenuous in accepting the Quad proposals for ceasefire. It has a couple of purposes to do so. Firstly, it wants to showcase its peaceful intentions after the bad press it has received, highlighting massacres in Al-Fashir. Secondly, it knows that SAF is not likely to accept the ceasefire proposals of Quad, and therefore it is happy to accept them because it's not going to be implemented anyway without the other side agreeing to it. I think here United States active involvement is also being wooed. Both sides are trying to project themselves as on the right side of Washington for future usage, and United States in turn has an eye on mineral wealth and agricultural wealth of Sudan, with the transactional president being in power in White House. So it all is a bit up in the air right now. Let's see which way does it go.
All right, sir, requesting you to stay on with us as we're tracking some further developments, this time from Kenya. We're now learning that Deputy President Kithure Kindiki is calling on Kenyans to rally behind their newly elected leaders following by-elections that were held across 22 constituencies in Thursday. He's in fact released a fresh statement earlier today. He congratulated the winners and urged the country to embrace unity after what he described as isolated pockets of violence witnessed during the polls. Now he's reaffirmed the government's commitment to inclusive development as well as encouraged what he called respectful politics across the country. This, of course, comes as the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights reported several disruptions during voting, including violent incidents in some regions. In Kasipul constituency, the commission confirmed that 2 people lost their lives after clashes linked to political activity. In fact, Kindiki has called on all political actors and supporters to tone down divisive rhetoric and focus on delivering services to Kenyans. That's not all. He's made such statements before as well. They were made, if I'm not wrong, in July. Warnings against inflammatory and tribal-based politics. He stressed that Kenya's progress depends on tolerance, mutual respect, and a shared commitment to national cohesion. Of course, interesting developments. Still with us on the broadcast is Ambassador Mahesh Sachdev. By-elections did witness violence. It witnessed chaos. 2 people lost their lives in a constituency as well. This call to unite in service of the people, transcend factional divides. This is all coming ahead of the 2027 general elections that are slated to be held in Kenya. What do you make of these statements?
Thank you. Kenya, although is regarded as one of the more advanced political economies of Africa, suffers same kind of malaise of socio-political cynicism. You would recall that last elections held in 2022 for the parliament as well as presidency were mired in huge controversies, with the losing side refusing to accept the results and the constitutional courts being involved, and widespread demonstrations and violence took place. Eventually, it settled down, and Mr. Ruto has become the president and has acted with due compassion and nationwide appeal. Those incidents are forgotten, but the current by-elections for in 22 constituencies were a run-up to 2027 presidential elections. And it appears that while the political rhetoric and name-calling has come down, it has not entirely vanished. It should worry those who are nationalists in Kenya, as this does not serve the country well, to have every elections being, instead of unifying the country, dividing the country. And these divisions, mostly on ethnic lines, sort of exacerbate the economic divide and the social divide. Coastal areas are slightly more progressive, better educated. Cities like Nairobi and Mombasa are urbane and have many of the headquarters, including Airtel, which is an Indian multinational in 14 African countries. Its African headquarters are based in Nairobi. Many of the international organizations are based in Nairobi as well. But then comes the hinterland, where rural areas, the ethnicity, and the political divisions run pretty deep. So the call by Deputy President Kindley is in order, but whether it is being made for the effect or whether the government is going to act with due impartiality remains to be seen. Thank you.
All right, so with that, I would like to thank you for taking out time, of course, sharing your perspective on these very crucial developments. On that note, we're shifting focus to what's taking place in South Africa. We're now learning that Duduzile Zuma-Sambudla, daughter of former South African President Jacob Zuma, has resigned from parliament amid allegations that she lured 17 South African men to fight for Russia in its war against Ukraine. Her party, the Umkhonto Weziske MK opposition party led by her father, says that she stepped down voluntarily and that her resignation from all public roles is effective immediately. MK officials deny any involvement in recruiting the men and stress that the resignation is not an admission of guilt. They say that the party will support efforts to bring the men back home. She in fact attended the press briefing but did not speak and has not publicly addressed the accusations made by her half-sister. South Africa's government has stated that the 17 citizens were deceived into joining mercenary forces in Ukraine's Donbas region under false promises of lucrative employment. Authorities are meanwhile working to repatriate the group and are investigating how they were recruited, as police have opened a probe into Zuma-Sambudla and others. With that, viewers, it's a wrap on the Africa Brief. More news and updates on the other side. Stay tuned on NewsX World.
What we can